The night Neil watched in awe. Neil was in London, early 70s. He was booked to record at a studio down the street. But one night, a friend dragged him to a small club. "There's this weird band playing," the friend said. "They dress up. It's wild." That band was Pink Floyd. At first, Neil didn't know what to think. They played a slow, eerie instrumental. Lights flickered. Smoke rose. The crowd didn't dance. They didn't cheer. They just watched. Then, echoes began. 23 minutes of rising soundscapes, swirling guitars, and lyrics that felt like dreams. "I didn't understand it," Neil admitted. "But I couldn't look away." What struck him most wasn't the noise, it was the control. They weren't showing off, Neil said. They were painting. Each note was a brushstroke. From that night on, Neil started experimenting more with his own music. He built Tonight's the Night, on the beach, and trance with that same spirit of exploration. "I owe them a lot," Neil said. "They taught me how to get lost in sound, and how to bring listeners with you." And now, we arrive at number 6. A band that came out of nowhere? But somehow made Neil Young feel young again. The band that brought Neil back to his roots. In the early 2000s, Neil was frustrated. The radio was full of pop stars. Guitar bands were rare. It felt like rock was fading. Then one night, his son Ben brought him a CD. "You should hear these guys," Ben said. "They sound kinda like you." The band was My Morning Jacket. At first, Neil wasn't sure. "I heard reverb. I heard guitars. I thought, okay, it's a sound I know." But then he listened closer. The lyrics. The soul. The atmosphere. It wasn't just mimicry, Neil said. It was honest. Songs like Golden and Don Dante felt like echoes of his own past, but with new life. "They reminded me why I started," Neil said. "Not for fame. Not for charts. Just for that feeling." He ended up jamming with them in secret during a session in Nashville. And in 2008, Neil invited them to open for him on tour. "They're the future," he said. "And they carry the past with them." Now, 6 bands down. Only one left. And Neil saved it for the most personal pick of all. Not just a band he loved. But a band that, without, Neil said he wouldn't be alive today. The band that saved Neil Young's life. Neil didn't blink. When asked who had the greatest impact on him, musically, emotionally, spiritually, he simply said, the Beatles. Yes, it may seem like an obvious choice. But for Neil, it wasn't about hits or history. It was about timing. "In 1964, I was lost," Neil said. "I was trying to find myself. My dad had left. My bands were going nowhere. Then he heard, 'I Want to Hold Your Hand,' on a car radio. And something clicked. It wasn't just the melody. It was the freedom. These guys were doing whatever they wanted, and the world was listening. They made it okay to be different," Neil said. "They gave me permission." He learned every song. He mimicked their harmonies. He even tried dressing like George Harrison for a while. But more than that, they gave him hope. "They made me believe that a weird kid from Winnipeg could do something that mattered," Neil said. Years later, when he met Paul McCartney, he didn't know what to say. "I just thanked him," Neil recalled. "For everything. Because without the Beatles, there would be no Harvest, no After the Gold Rush, no Crazy Horse, no Neil Young." This wasn't just Neil's list. It was a map of his life. Each band marked a moment of loss, love, growth, or rebellion. From the haunting streets of Lou Reed's New York, to the glowing echoes of Pink Floyd's London, to the raw southern heat of Skinner's Alabama, Neil Young's favorite bands weren't just about music. They were about survival. "They didn't just influence me," he said. "They held me up." And now, at 78, Neil has finally given fans something more valuable than any new album. He gave them the truth. Not every artist can look back and say, "These are the ones who kept me going." But Neil Young just did, and somewhere, out there, someone's listening to Radiohead for the first time. Or finding the Velvet Underground in a dusty record store. Or putting on Sweet Home Alabama with new ears. And maybe, just maybe, they'll feel what Neil felt. Not just sound, but life.